Heritage International Headquarters in Fort Mill, South Carolina. This is Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events with Rick Joyner.
Welcome to Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events. And as always, we've got plenty to talk about. So, one of the things I try to do and schedule these programs around are a lot of the major questions I'm getting on Facebook and some of the comments and all. And of course, there's a whole lot of attention now on the news going on about, the CIA saying that Russia possibly hacked into our systems in such a way that they were trying to influence the elections, especially influence them to help Donald Trump get elected. Now, that's a very interesting thing, and to date, it's still major on the front screen of the news. But there are a couple of questions about this, and there's a reason why none of the other intelligence operations, the national security, the NSA, the head of the national security team, none of the others have agreed with this. And some of them saying we're not disagreeing necessarily, but there's not enough information for us to make such a conclusion right now, especially the FBI, who their process is to do an investigation so that it would be built on evidence that would stand up in court. And they're saying right now, we don't have any evidence to that fact that would stand up in court. So now all of a sudden our CIA's hung out there to dry. And should they be? I mean, they should be if they are speculative or drawing such a incredibly important conclusion with not enough evidence to back it up. That's a pretty serious charge against the CIA. And, when you have the president-elect saying, I don't believe this, I totally disagree with it and don't believe it. And, how is the CIA going to do their job? The main job they have is getting the intelligence that we can base decisions on, especially strategic decisions from the president on down, And so this is a major issue. Now, I think it's something that's going to be solved, and I think everybody's going to learn from it. But we're in crisis right now with the way that our FBI has been discredited, and now the CIA, it looks like it's really looking like this charge was just political in nature. And a lot of people think, well, we know the Russians did that. No, we don't. We really don't. Now, I'm not going to get technical about this because I can't, or too technical, but, the Russians are very sophisticated hackers. There's no doubt about it. Could they have done this? Probably. Did they do it? To make a charge like that, you've got to have some pretty sure evidence. And if there is evidence left in the sources that were hacked, then you can almost be sure it was not the Russians, because they are so sophisticated now. They don't leave markers. They don't leave trails anymore when they do it. Even where we know they did it, they didn't leave any evidence. So if there was evidence left behind as far as markers or something that would point back at the Russians, either the Russians left them there on purpose, which nobody could figure out why they would do that, or whoever did do it purposely left those markers in order to point to Russia. So, and they're saying, and Trump is right about this, anybody could have done it. It could have been some kid at home that got in and did it, and because it was pretty sloppily done, it sounds like, if they left markers. Russians don't do that anymore. They're more sophisticated than that. So anyway, everybody's up in arms and trying to figure this out. John Bolton even said, who is a very knowledgeable man and in these areas as well as foreign affairs, that even the Obama administration could have done it. Anybody could have done it. He wasn't saying they did, but the evidence is almost as much that they did it as anybody. Somebody was either trying to frame the Russians, or the Russians did it in a way that it looked like they wanted to be caught. It just doesn't make sense. So anyway, but to me, the thing that is really serious here is how much of the integrity has been compromised, and how this has got to be restored in our intelligence community. And what I understand, what's been coming out is that many within the Central Intelligence Agency have been absolutely against the release of this accusation against the Russians, and that even maybe as many as 90% say, we don't agree with that. So maybe it's a few at the top that are some way have a political agenda for blaming the Russians. Then you go back, remember when Brexit hit? At first everybody started blaming fake news. And then they started blaming the Russians for affecting the Brexit vote. Now we have the exact same parallel happening in the U.S., where first all this, emphasis on fake news. Well, there was a lot of fake news during this election. Unfortunately, it looks like most of it came from the establishment media. Put out all kinds of misinformation and ended up being wrong almost across the board. So, there's a lot of confusion there, and it needs to be cleaned up. And, one thing I think that's got to be done is the head of these organizations cannot be political appointees. And, just a little bit, I've got some friends that are part of the Trump transition team. One of them's one of the key guys in the whole team. And he's been in government for a long time. Since the Reagan administration, he's had many top offices and positions. But he told me the other day, he said, this transition of Trump has not been done like any transition they've ever seen before. He said they weren't given any quotas. That we need so many Hispanics, we need so many women, he said none of that came out. And he said, we all hope we get a good balance of everybody, that reflects the nature of the country. But they said the most important thing that was put out by the Trump team is first thing we want to do for every position, we want to define the job and what needs to be accomplished by that position. Then we want to find the most qualified person to take that position. And that's never been done before. People, in short, it's not being done politically. These are not politicians who are running things up there now. They're not thinking about the political consequences of their appointments. How many are we going to gain favor with this group or that group? They're saying, what is the job and who's the best one for the job? And that is why I think Trump sincerely considered Mitt Romney for the position of Secretary of State. When everybody else is saying, that's crazy, the things he said about you. Now, one thing Trump has demonstrated, he forgives really easy. And he overlooks things really easy. That came out in talking to the people that work for him, been working for him for years, so he can get really mad at you, but it's gone in 10 minutes, and then he never holds it over you again if you did something wrong. And but it looks like he was sincerely considering Romney. I don't believe he would have spent those days interviewing him. He only had one reason. Is this the best man for the job? And if he is, we're going to do that for America. It's for what's best for America, not what is best for Trump or his team or appointing loyal people. No, competence has to, no pun intended, trump political considerations. And even maybe sometimes personal ones. This is remarkable. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before. And at least not in my lifetime, not in those areas. And you look at the appointments that Trump has made so far, this is an unbelievable team that's being put together. And it's not being built. If he were just appointing people who was loyal to him, no question Giuliani would have gotten that job. and others, but he's not doing it that way. And he's sending a message continually. We're not going to do it that way. And then he's shaking things up in other areas. We know his support for the military, for the Defense Department, and all that. But he has fired some shots across their bow about the F-35 program, that fighter plane that's taken years too long to develop, way past the time it was supposed to take, and way over budget. I mean, it's so far over budget, and Trump's just saying, we're not going to do it that way anymore. He's not going to overlook that. He's holding their feet to the fire. That's not the way you do business. He's thinking like a business leader, not a politician. And no question, he wants a strong military, but he doesn't want waste. And he's not going to put up with the American people being taken advantage of that way. It's our tax dollars. We're the ones who have to pay for that mismanagement, all the overruns and everything else. Fired a shot across the bow of Boeing the same way. He loves Boeing. He loves these big manufacturers, obviously. He's trying to get them to all come back to our country and do it. But he's also letting them know, you're not going to take advantage of the American people by taking advantage of these Department of Defense or government contracts anymore. So things are really being shaken up. And I think in a good way, in a way it has to be done. I'm personally really excited about it. Talking to my friend on the team that I spent several days with recently, I mean, it has energized everybody. They just haven't seen this government being done this way before. So I think we need that same kind of thing in our intelligence community too, where the one who gets that top position isn't just a friend of the president. It's not given to him out of loyalty or anything else. Who is the most competent one for that position? Who is going to bring to those positions, head of the FBI, the CIA, NSA, all of them, where they're not going to have political dogs in the fight. They're not going to be trying to make one, party look good and the other bad, or vice versa all the time. They're going to be after defending our country and protecting our country. So, that is one of the, I think, important lessons we got to learn here. We got to also learn how far we've gotten behind so fast in cyber warfare. Now, that's critical. And it could impact, cyber warfare could shut us down right now. It could do the job on America that nuclear bombs could do. In the sense that it really could be that devastating. Our whole banking system could be shut down. How about our power grids? And we've already seen many have been hacking into these things. Obviously, they're learning our systems. They're learning ways they can get in, get out, do things. I tell you, we have got to put somebody, I think, on the level, maybe even this is one that I think really could be a cabinet position, or it should at least be an assistant secretary in the Department of Defense, of a cyber warfare czar, or whatever you want to call him, secretary of that is going to be huge in the future. When the study was done on the impact of a EMP blast, electromagnetic pulse over America, when final conclusion was 80 to 90% of all Americans would die within 1 year, just with the shutdown of our electrical grid. Nobody would have food delivered. No, it would be anarchy and chaos. Well, that can be done through cyber warfare now. We need divisions. We need an army fighting the cyber warfare that is right now going on. And if we're strong enough in that area where they know if they hit us, they're going to get hit back twice as hard, in the same way, I think we're going to have peace in that area. It's peace through strength. But it's got a major issue. I think Carly Fiorina would be an excellent one to head up something like that with her experience in the tech areas and all. But I'm just saying, I'm not the one to qualify. But we've got some incredible people who could get that done. They know the top technology people in the fields. We've got to do it. We're seeing our vulnerability right now, and we need to take note of that and not just major on the minors. I'll be right back. Each year, we gather around the New Year's time to seek the Lord for a word for the coming year. It's called our New Year's Conference. It is one of the most exciting, one of the most enjoyable conferences we have. It's a huge celebration. We have one of the best parties you will ever be to on New Year's Eve. We've had worship that has just been electric lately, and I expect it's going to go through the roof then. You want to be a part of it. It's an exciting time. But more importantly, we need to hear a word for this coming year. We need a word from God. We're coming together not to just get words, but to hear from the Word Himself. Now, He may want to use you to speak to us. We're asking everyone who comes to seek the Lord to bring something that you're hearing from above about this coming year that will help position God's people. So you don't want to miss this, if at all possible. This coming New Year's right here at Heritage, December 29th through the 31st. Okay, so we're discussing a lot of the current events, and these are things that are all over the internet, all over the social media right now, and the media that we've been discussing, the CIA accusation of Russia, trying to affect our elections. Now, let me give a little background here, too, that I haven't heard anyone cover. If we want to understand someone else, we've got to stand under their situation. Now, you can go back and research this, and I don't have the time in one program to present all the evidence. It's all readily available now. Just Google it, check it out. But, the Ukraine is to Russia comparatively what New England is to the United States. I mean, the Revolutionary War, the whole revolution, the independence, the freedoms that we've sought and implemented in our country, were all born out of New England, basically. I mean, there were some that came from the Virginians and all, but the seedbed of our nation was New England. And the seedbed that became Russia was the Ukraine. Kiev was the very first capital of Russia. And most of Russia looks at Ukraine. That's part of us. And have something ripped New England off from the United States. It succeeded or whatever and became its own independent nation. We would, and the rest of the nation stayed together, we would be always trying to get New England back. And that's kind of the way Russia feels about Ukraine and the Crimea. But, we're really upset at the way some people are being made to think. I think it's manufactured and invented, but they're being made to think Russia tried to impact our elections, and we're just insulted by that. Well, it came out in the WikiLeaks how, the Ukrainian president, not the one now, but the one before, the democratically elected president of the Ukraine, he leaned towards Russia. I mean, he was very pro-Russian. He wasn't necessarily negative towards the EU and the other countries, but was very pro-Russian. Then they intercept all this communication, and even some of it was very public communication by our ambassador and everybody else, boasting about how they're going to overthrow that pro-Russian guy and put their own person in. And then it happens, and they're boasting about it. Well, that happened. I mean, that was like if that had been done to us in New England. the same thing. And they're very, very offended, very upset with what they see as our intrusion into their internal politics, into their national security interests. And we just come in and say, we are for democracy and all this, and our people are constantly criticizing Putin for being a dictator. He's not a dictator. He was democratically elected. He has a whole lot more power in his country than our president tends to have in our country, but still, he has a legislature. Things get passed, bills get passed. He is not a dictator. Not in the true sense of the word, and he does submit to his parliament. They pass laws. Now, he is a strong man leader, no doubt about it, a strong, decisive leader. But he was democratically elected too. We call him a dictator. We're insulting the Russian people who elected him. He still has a huge popularity in Russia. Way more than any of our presidents have had in a long, long time. So we're being very insulting. Then we can't understand why they don't like us. And they see us as being hypocrites where we overthrow a democratically elected president of Ukraine and boast about how easily we can do it. Then we do it and boast about it. And we wonder why they want to invade and take over that land. The guy in there now, was he democratically elected? There's all these questions. Or was that whole thing manipulated and controlled? Were their elections manipulated and controlled? And a whole lot of evidence came out about how we did that to them. So I could see, if I were them, I would want to get in and manipulate our elections. But that still doesn't mean they did it. But I could understand it. Now, here's another point I want to make. Russia should be one of our best friends. And it's taken us 250 years to mature and democratic in our democracy, our republic. And we still have all kinds of problems, big ones as we're seeing now. They're really new at this. And we can't expect them to be instantly where we are or perfect. We're not there yet. But Russia has many common interests that we should be best friends, and they have many common enemies. One of the reasons they're siding up with some of our enemies now is because they feel so threatened by what's going on their own borders and what they consider their own mother Russia. And they're just hitting back, and they're trying to deflect and cause us to be, stirred up and give a whole lot of our attention to other areas, to deflect our attention to meddling on their borders and what they think are in their own internal elections and all. This needs to be diffused. Now, I don't know this guy from Exxon. Don't know much about him. We can easily research him now. But I think it's a positive thing that he knows Putin, is obviously friends, knows the Russian, and has such international experience in business. And I just ask you to consider, Russia would have been and wanted to be our friend when the Iron Curtain came down. And we did the most unbelievably offensive things to Russia and the Russian people, and continue to do them foolishly. Our media is constantly attacking them, and I believe with false information and false accusations, just as it seems this last one was. It doesn't have to be this way. We need to start looking for friends in the world. We're supposed to be friends with Russia and China, and I believe both can be worked out now. I just ask you to start praying for that. Praying for the King of Kings to start intervening and leading us and leading his people around the world. Thank you. Hello, I'm Rick Joyner. I'm here with David Valier, our worship leader here at MorningStar, and we wanted to talk to you about the worship collective that's coming up this March 2nd through 4th.
Yeah.
And March 4th is a crucial prophetic day.
Oh, that's awesome.
March
Didn't think
4th.
about that.
That's what we're going to do here. If you want to go forward, you want to be here on March 4th, but Man, we got an incredible lineup
Yeah,
for this thing.
we really do. Jason Upton, which, we love that guy. He's amazing. Every time he's come here, it's just been an amazing time. We've got Sean Foyt, who is he's the head of Burn 24/7. So that's a worship movement that is just going all around the world. And he's a Bethel music artist. We've got Stephen Roach, who is just the most amazing musician. He's a part of Songs of Water.
Of my favorites.
And it's going to be incredible. We've got, of course, Susie Uriah and Sarah McMillan. It's going to be awesome. I mean, we've got just such a great lineup. Kalani, and we really can't wait to have you guys here with us.
Yeah, and these worship collectives, I mean, they have been powerful.
Yeah, they really have.
We have really, something is kicking off. You see it just going level to level during these things. But we're going to be covering prayer, spontaneous worship, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing it, not just talking about it.
We're gonna have teachings on it, and then we're gonna do it, and really just show how you can do this in your community at home. It's gonna be awesome. So come and join us March 2nd through 4th.
You want to be there.
Yes.
I'm going to be there. I want to see you there. We are going to go to heaven together.
Yes.
On TV, online, on the go, and on your iPad. Tune into Prophetic Perspectives with Rick Joyner, always available on MorningStarTV.com.